you think you're free of all of that, or whether that's still something.
I'm sorry, I really don't. What are we doing?
Well, I'm just asking questions. That's all.
Right.
Okay.
Bye.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning Somewhere!
for August 29th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns. That's me. I'm talking right now. Sitting right over there. She's just asking questions, everybody. She's just asking questions. That's all she's doing.
I'm just asking questions here. Why you gotta get so upset?
It's Ashley Burns. Say hi to Ashley, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Ashley. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Been following the news.
Are you following news?
Vaguely.
Good for you.
Vaguely following the news. There's been not a lot going on, which makes it hard to follow, but some fun things going on.
Well, it's hard to not talk about. One of the big things in the cycle right now is political news. We've talked about this before.
It does have a way of sort of taking over everything, doesn't it?
I think we've talked about that there's this thing called politics that's in the news. The only thing really going on there big at the moment, besides politicians stabbing reporters to death. We'll talk about that in a second. But Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are going to do their first ever interview. So now we're now into the campaign, and here we go. Now here it starts. So that's the political news that's going on.
All right, so strap in, guys. It's going to be a couple of months till the election, and the campaigns are really underway. You thought they were underway before. Now they're really underway.
Yeah, that was the fake political sphere before.
That was practice.
Now this is the real campaign.
Now we're in the big leagues.
Just like we had the fake Olympics before, now we got the real Olympics starting.
That's right. The Paralympics
the
are kicking off.
Paralympics are starting in Paris. So do the Paralympics always go where the Olympics are? Is that the case?
Yes, they're like they take place in the same city as the Olympics. They're run by the Olympics, and they take place as I believe every time it's shortly after the Olympics. So they had their opening ceremonies yesterday, and the games have begun today, including, Bernie, the one that we're keeping our eye on, Murder Ball.
Wheelchair rugby.
Yep, that's right. Kicks off this morning, 10:30.
Murder Ball. Hey, I want to give a shout out too. While we were talking about the fake Olympics, the Paris Games, we were talking about how cricket is going to be in the Los Angeles Olympics in the next iteration, and people were posting primers, Ashley, primer for cricket. Since I was saying I don't follow cricket, and I have to say I went out and watched some of those. I'm very excited for cricket.
So you're in now.
I want to start watching cricket.
Look, I feel like you've got some good practice in being a baseball fan.
Yeah,
right? Like it's
yes.
a good foundation. It's like the relationship I feel like between gridiron football and rugby. Right? If you understand one, you're going to have an easier time sort of understanding the different rules for the other one.
Fair enough. That's fair.
And so now you've got baseball and you got cricket.
Where does Australian rules football fall in that?
Bloody. Oh no, AFL. I don't know. They wear funny singlets. It seems like they've got uncomfortable arms and very short shorts.
There was a point in time when I knew AFL rules, and they have just left my brain. My brain said, we don't need these anymore. Let's just get rid of these.
Yeah, they're like the sort of like weird brother over doing their own thing. There's rugby, there's gridiron, and then there's whatever they're doing.
Yeah, whatever they're doing over there. Also in the news, SpaceX, their Falcon 9 booster, it landed on the drone ship out in the ocean, the reusable booster, and then it fell over and crashed in a fireball.
Well, that one landed, fell over, then exploded.
And fell into the swamp.
Fell into the swamp. Yeah, so this is the Falcon 9. This was its 23rd trip. So I have to say that even though it did land, fall over, and then sink into the swamp, it did way better than was expected. I believe those rockets were designed and expected to do 10, maybe 15 trips. It's done 23 before it had its crash.
And there's a lot of headlines, too, because the FAA has now grounded the SpaceX fleet because they're investigating the crash, which sounds like, what the hell are you doing? These rockets crash all the time, like they did during tests. Someone did point out in the comments, though, that SpaceX did send up this booster, saying and certifying that it was safe. It came down and it crashed. So the FAA has an obligation to go through their process and investigate. Totally normal thing.
Standard procedure.
Although...
it's got to be very frustrating for the astronauts, though, because...
I was thinking the same thing. They just heard they're going to be hitching a ride on SpaceX.
And now the SpaceX has two things. One, they had to scrub there was Polaris Dawn initial launch because of helium. And now their whole fleet is grounded because of this Falcon explosion. So they're like, come on, guys, you're all right.
Wait a minute. So did Polaris Dawn take off? Because it was supposed to take off on Wednesday, but then I didn't hear about it. But now if the
I didn't hear about it either. Let me see if it
because
actually launched.
this to be clear, this Falcon 9 booster that crashed was part of a Starlink launch. So they're up there all the time putting these Starlink satellites in orbit on their way to a projected estimated 42,000 satellites in orbit. Can you imagine that?
That's a lot of satellites.
It's a lot
Okay,
of satellites.
I can't see anything about the Polaris Dawn actually having launched. Just here's what you will need to know about it. So based on that quick internet search, I'm going to guess that it is currently grounded.
Do you think maybe SpaceX said, hey, we got to scrub this launch? Crash a rocket. That'll give us a reason to do it. Nobody's hurt. It's out in the middle of the ocean. Who cares? We can fix that fucking drone ship. No big deal.
No one needs a taco anyway.
They'll get a taco. If I was Butch and Sonny at this point up there on the ISS, I would say, look, I'd get on the comms and I'd go, come in mission control. And they'd say, go ahead, ISS. Can you just give us fucking parachutes and we will jump? I'm not sure I understand the science of this, but I will just fucking jump at this point.
Look, there was technically that guy who jumped out of space for Red Bull, right?
Maybe Red Bull could go get them.
But I get the feeling that the ISS is probably slightly further out into the whole, space
I think you
area
might be right.
than the Red Bull jumping guy. So
yeah.
What I'm getting from this is they're going to set a dope ass new record.
Be great though if that was the list of records. It was like Apollo missions, Red Bull guy, everybody in the ISS. Maybe Red Bull. That could be their next big stunt. Is they go up and get these guys out of space. Somebody could reveal, they've got. This is actually turning into like the plot of The Martian. We got to get them home.
Get them home.
Got to get them back on Earth.
Someone's going to do like a whole slingshot around the sun and just grab them on their way.
It is crazy though, with just the force of gravity. It's like they want. I know they're in orbit, but they want to come home. Like all the forces, if they can just break their orbit, it'll happen naturally. Okay, we can't make it happen on our own. We can't get them down to the goddamn Earth.
We can. What we want though is to get them down intact.
That's true.
Right. That's the important part.
Right. We don't want them like breaking up over California or anything like that. I get you. I hear you.
No, it's important. It's important.
So rounding out news in financial news, Warren Buffett's company, Warren Buffett, his company Berkshire Hathaway is now valued over $1 trillion. It is the first ever non-tech company to be valued at $1 trillion. That is absolutely crazy. It's just an investment firm. It takes money and it makes money. That's what it does. It's insane. At some point, when does the whole bubble pop? The entire, I'm talking everything across the board. Like money. It's just like, forget it. That was a thing. We used to have money, but then it became worth absolutely nothing at some point.
And now we have Star Trek credits. It's weird. Trillion is such a big number that you can't really wrap your mind around it. We've talked about this before too, with the jump from $1 million to $1 billion.
Give me $1 trillion. I'll make my best effort at wrapping my mind around it. Give it the old college try.
But it takes 50 years or something to count to $1 billion. Right? It's like, how long does it take to count to $1 million? 2 weeks. It's going to take 50 years to count to $1 billion.
That's it.
Do you know how long it would take to count to $1 trillion?
No, how long?
31,963 years.
Wow. You could get 3 astronauts home in that amount of time. That's crazy. Yeah, trillion. At some point, what is in your head? What's the number at which money doesn't matter at all? It has no meaning anymore.
$50 billion.
50 billion.
50 billion. Because
I
I'm
would
just
go
thinking
even
about I'm thinking
lower.
of how many companies I could acquire.
Oh,
right?
you're thinking about companies.
It does still mean something at that point, right? But once you've acquired all the companies.
What's the most expensive house you've ever heard of?
50 million. I don't know, one of those really big estates that have 8 tennis courts, and I'm like, how do you even know enough people to fill those tennis courts? Why do you have 8 tennis courts at your house?
I don't know. It seems like people just tennis court seems like a status symbol thing. Like, how often are you playing fucking tennis?
Yeah, but and 8 tennis courts. Come on, are you do the next US Open?
Yeah, you're gonna host the next Olympics. If you're in Los Angeles, you're 8 tennis courts.
Maybe
be one of the satellite
that's how
facilities.
They're hosting. They're just rocking up to various houses. You're playing over here. You're playing over here.
It's listen. I want enough money to have my own Falcon 9 launching pad, like in the pond. We can put it out there and let's just have them crash.
Is that the point at which money just doesn't mean anything anymore?
Well, the most expensive house I ever heard of was Marcus Notch of Minecraft fame bought a house for $75 million reportedly. That was like the most expensive house I've ever heard of. But I think there's ones that are like $120 million in the U.S. You know, I'm sure there's ones that just are priceless that no one's ever going to sell. So at that point, it's like, what if you buy like 3 of those, $360 million? It's like, at what point does money make no sense anymore? It just makes no goddamn sense. And I know he doesn't have $1 trillion. He's not the world's first trillionaire, but
it's
might as well be.
It's in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Here's the Rob report: the 25 most expensive homes in the world for sale. All right, we're scrolling all the way down. I care about 25. I want to talk about number 1. All right, number 1. This is The Holm in London, England. $314 million. It looks a lot like the White House.
Who the fuck is going to buy that? $314 million.
Warren Buffett, obviously.
I would love. Let's call the bank tomorrow. And go, hey, we want a mortgage for $314 million.
We're going to crowdfund it.
I'm gonna. What's your? Go ahead. And
This is
go
like-
on the list.
this
I'm
is
gonna
like
find out the
the,
mortgage payment.
This is like the Castle Gatehouse. We're going to crowdfund it. Us and 314 million of our closest friends are going to move in.
All right, let me do. This is all in fucking pounds. What fucking country am I in here? Let me do 300 million pounds. Let's just say that. All right, go ahead. What's the next one?
A Gordon Point in Naples, Florida is $295 million. And that one's in dollars. So you got easy translation right there.
So if you wanted to do $314 million on a right now, interest rates are high. They're 6.5% fixed rate for 30-year loan. Just a traditional 30-year loan, $314 million. You would be paying $1.9 million a month. No big deal.
The more you spend, Bernie, the more you save.
You would pay over the lifetime of the loan $383 million in interest.
It's a bargain.
I'm going to call the bank tomorrow. Why not? And why not?
Let's go for it.
The first monthly payment comes and go, look, I got a problem. Long story, my booster rocket crashed. So I'm having a liquidity issue
I've
right
been
now.
grounded.
Dear Lord. Yeah, I would say, I don't know, where it doesn't even matter. Like, you don't even, like 100, let's say 100 million. 100 million.
Okay,
so
we're talking about then like just on a how you live scale, where like you would never have to look at the cost of anything that you buy for you in your life ever again.
Just not even that. That's like, I mean, that's even way lower than that. I'm just talking like if you went just insane and you could put people like MC Hammer, like they run through shitloads of millions and they go broke. Did you remember the Richard Pryor movie in the 80s called Brewster's Millions, where he had to spend all of his money in order to get more money? I forget the premise. But it was
he had to spend all this money, but he couldn't have anything to show for it.
Right. And he just had to like spend the money by a certain amount of time and then he would get 10 times that amount or something like that. It was a really strange premise for a movie. But I was just thinking if you could just like spend like crazy, like where you couldn't physically buy stuff. Like what's the most expensive house? What's the most expensive car? And then you get all those things and then multiply that by 10. Even if you just went insane and spent on everything, you couldn't spend $1 trillion. I argue you couldn't spend it. What are you going to do? Buy a fucking country? What are you going to do?
All right, so here's the premise of Brewster's Millions.
I'm going to buy a ladder to build up to the ISS and get them down. They can walk down, for God's sake.
All right, so he has to spend, he can choose to receive $1 million up front or attempt to inherit the whole estate, which is like $300 million, by spending $30 million in 30 days. But he can't have anything to show for it at the end of the 30 days.
Is this adjusted for inflation? Imagine spending $30 million in $1 million a day in the 80s. Like, how the fuck would you do that?
Right.
How would you do
I mean, that's why it's such a ridiculous premise for a movie.
with nothing
right?
to show for it. Like, what do you buy everybody food? Everyone gets a free taco.
just spend the entire 30 days on your car phone.
Yeah, if you did
This
the
is
free
the 80s,
taco
right?
for everybody in the U.S., it would be like, it's like $2 a minute, I think, on those old cell phones. But if you bought everyone a taco in America, even man, woman, child, baby, that would be about $330 million. So that could get it done for you.
Yeah, look, Brewster, we got your plan.
Nothing to show
We got
for
your
it.
plan. Just pull a Taco Bell.
It's free Taco Day, Taco Tuesday. It's on you. All right, do we talk about everything else that's going on in the world today, Ashley?
Yes, and you also made a hint about a certain salacious murder as well.
Well, before we get into that, I think good lead into that is as weird as this sounds, is that Nikki Glaser is now been tapped as the host of the next Golden Globes.
You're right. That does seem like quite the lead-in.
Well, Nikki Glaser has made quite the mark as a comedian in roasts, and she destroyed Tom Brady in the Tom Brady roast.
Yeah, so she is a comedian who I didn't know that I knew, if that makes sense. When I heard Nikki Glaser is hosting the Golden Globes, I thought, okay, great. I don't know who that is. And then you told me that she's the one who does the roasts. And I immediately knew exactly who you were talking about because she's been a fixture at, I don't know if it's a couple roasts or if they just roast a couple people at a time, a mass roasting. But she has, I feel like, made a name for herself as like a master roaster. She can say the most brutal things and somehow they don't seem as mean as they are.
And even like stuff that's, questionable in today's time. You should go listen to the Tom Brady roast when Nikki Glaser specifically focuses on Gronk.
I'll try to post a link to it in the link dump.
Gronkowski. When she focuses on him, God, it's so fucking funny. And then the Tom Brady roast is like, those are going to go away. Those cannot stand in today's environment, I don't think, because it's like they went after everything. They went after his family, everything like that. But she's going to be the host of the Golden Globes, right? And right. I don't think you understood either how roasts work. So basically, they roast Tom Brady, and they get all these comedians together, and they put them on stage on the dais. But then when every comedian goes up, everyone that's up there is fair game. So they pretty much do everyone around them first, and then do the guest of honor. Because
okay, so if you're doing a roast, you are also then available to be roasted.
You are fair game.
You're signing up to be roasted.
Yeah, which is because Nikki Glaser can get away with it. I think it's because she's this young lady and she's going after these powerful men. That's typically who's up on those stages. And she can attack them and it comes across as okay. It doesn't feel like punching down at all. But there's one where she went after Jewel. I think that's where a lot of people would know her, where she was up there. And I remember you saying, who would roast Jewel? Why was Jewel part of roast?
Why would Jewel be in a roast anyway?
Oh, yeah. Well, that begs the question, why was Jewel there? Like, Jewel was roasting someone? Doesn't make sense. That's something an agent convinced her to do, I'm sure.
Right. They're like, this is going to be great to promote your new album.
Right. Oh, it'll be fine. It's a lot of fun. Everyone's irreverent. No one's going to be mean or anything like that. But then, you get there and you're with some really, really funny, smart, witty comedians and they tear you down. She went after Jewel, who, I don't know if you've ever seen Jewel. Her teeth are a little crooked. And she had this great line where she said, Jewel is here. Hey, Jewel, I don't want to badmouth you because God already did.
It's just straight out of the gate. It's Jewel. Like, it's so mean. It's so mean. And yet she somehow makes it seem like sweet. And I think that's where Nikki Glaser's strength lies. It's like she can say these horribly mean things, but they don't feel quite so, they don't feel quite so mean-spirited, which is like, as you say, roasts are probably getting harder and harder to do, right? Because they feel mean.
Yes.
They are mean.
They're mean. But it's what everyone signed up for. You knew what you were getting involved with coming in the door, right? That's what feels strange to me. I think she's going to kill it. I can't wait to watch her at the Golden Globes. And
the roast of Hollywood, are you kidding?
I think it's a good pivot away from Ricky Gervais, who I think his whole thing was wearing thin to the point where it all started to feel really mean-spirited. It didn't feel like it was fun anymore in any way whatsoever. And I get it, you know what I mean? I guess the Hollywood foreign press wants to distinguish themselves from the kind of inside baseball of the Academy Awards and the Emmys. But at the same time, it's like, it is a celebration. You know what I mean? It's like, Why are we here if we're just like tearing every single thing down? And I have a really weird conspiracy theory about this, where there was one person in particular who I think their career was massively affected by just a directorial choice for the Golden Globes. Because Ricky Gervais made a joke about pedophilia in Hollywood at an award show. And man, I really think when that joke was made and then they showed Tom Hanks on screen, I think there were some people out there who just like latched on to that moment. You know what I mean?
They were trying to they're trying to tell us something, as opposed to they're cutting to a celebrity in the audience to get their reaction.
They got to cut to somebody, right? Right. And
it happened to be Tom Hanks.
And if you ever want to get scared, go to Tom Hanks's Twitter account and click on any one of his tweets and just start reading replies. It's crazy. I mean, this is like a guy who's like
Like
beloved,
the nicest guy ever,
beloved
right?
actor, and it's just like the craziest fucking people. Like it's like just filling his replies with just the wildest stuff. It's insane. And as far as I know, he's never really had like any allegations against him at all.
No, well, he had an interesting thing, and maybe it's related to this because people were already like after him looking for something. In that he was one of the very early people to get COVID.
Yes.
Quite publicly. He was, I believe, in Australia at the time. He was hospitalized and quarantined there. And there was a whole conspiracy about, like, he posted a photo from the hospital, and then there were people dissecting the photo because they didn't believe it was real or it was in like a government facility or something weird like that.
It either fell in one of two camps. By the way, just to date this, here's a Time Magazine article from March 12th, 2020. So this is super early in COVID. Rita Wilson and Tom Hanks test positive for COVID-19. So that's how early this was in the whole COVID thing. And it was either one of two camps. It was either COVID's not real, right? And he's a crisis actor. Or the other thing was...
Crisis got a real budget if they can afford Tom Hanks.
Or the complete flip of that is COVID is going to kill us all, and they're trying to show a celebrity getting a shot and recovering from this when we're all about to die from it. And he's in an underground mountain bunker provided by the military. There was a picture he posted of him and his wife, just a normal photo, and they're in the facility thanking the people who are helping them or whatever. People went nuts because there was a barcode over the door. Like there was a barcode above it. And people were like, what's that barcode? Why is there a barcode over it? What kind of facility are you in? What's going on? What's up with this? And
what's the real truth?
People who worked in healthcare were like, no, we have barcodes over our door because we track where our very expensive medical equipment goes. And people weren't hearing it, you know what I mean? So it's just wild. Anyway, the whole point of this is there's always crazy people out there. There's always going to be crazy people out there. But then there's also just like normal criticism that's just normal par for the course that comes, right?
Right.
A politician in Las Vegas, Ashley, the Clark County Public Administrator. I don't even know how low in government this position is.
I don't even know what that position means.
He was criticized. His name is Robert Tellis. He was criticized publicly in a series of articles in the newspaper by a reporter, and then lost his bid for re-election for Clark County Public Administrator. Do you want to know what the Clark County office does?
Yeah, what does that do?
This is the office where if someone dies and they don't have any heirs or a will, the office takes possession of the property and then attempts to locate relatives so the property can be turned over to them. That's what this is.
Okay.
Series of articles written about the guy, about hostility in the workplace, bullying, toxic workplace, and all that stuff. Loses his bid for re-election. Goes to the reporter's house. He's been convicted of this in court now. Goes to the reporter's house, stabs him to death in 2022.
Jesus.
Yeah. And kills the guy over something. It's like, who even knows about this? I'm sure the person in the middle of it at the point in time thought their reputation, their life was being destroyed. Your life is now really destroyed if you've been convicted of murder and you're going away for now up to 20 years before you're eligible for parole, and another guy's life is completely forfeit. It's just insane to me.
Yeah, you thought it was bad before.
Yeah.
Try murder.
Well, this is real, right? Now, this is a real thing. Everything else I know feels real, but it's not. You can just pick up and go and do something new.
Murder's pretty real.
Yeah, and it's also, it's like, there's part of me, too, that feels for this reporter. He lost his life by exposing corruption at the Clark County Public Administrator's office. It's like, what a thing to lose your life over. You know what I mean? And really what it is, he just crossed paths with the wrong person. You know, a guy who seems to me to be not of the right state of mind. He represented himself in court and everything else. So,
that's never a good sign.
That's never a great sign.
Never a good sign.
Yeah, and he said he was framed even though the court presented that there was evidence in his house, including a hat similar, like a giant straw hat that was worn. The assailant was caught getting in a vehicle that looks just like his vehicle. Things like that. Partially destroyed shoes at his house and things like that. He couldn't ever explain to the court why the people who framed him were able to put DNA evidence on the corpse or were able to put evidence in his house. It's just like he was being framed.
Yeah, well, that's what comes from representing yourself, right?
Yeah, but it's just crazy. And it's just like, this is, you know, this thing of now guys in prison and this reporter is fucking dead. Over what? Over what? Over what? Like people's ego and stuff. Just sometimes in life, you just gotta like pick up and just walk away. Just walk away. Walk away from it.
Walk away, count to 10. You know, those things help, believe it or not.
Robert Downey Jr. at the end of that clip said, just right, bye. That's it. Just bye.
Just get up, walk away, take yourself out of the situation.
You go out of the room and it's gone. You know what I mean? That's it. It's gone. Unless it's a real thing, which you go to court for, which he has now because a guy is dead and now he's in prison. You know, anything else, I swear to God, I promise you can walk it off. Give me a fucking break. It's so crazy. So crazy. All right. Well, Ashley, I'm going to go walk off this podcast.
All right. Well, before we go, I would like to thank today's sponsors, Ian Smith and Mark Ryan Pagninan. Thank you both for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morningsomewhere.
All right. Well, that does it for us today. August 29th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. I strongly recommend that you be here as well.
Or else. Bye, everybody.